Despite the lack of progress in treatment options for people living with brain cancer, only a small group of researchers work in brain cancer globally. A chronic lack of government funding makes a stable career challenging to achieve, especially in less common cancer types like brain cancer. Our Brilliant Minds program aims to increase the capacity of brain cancer research in Australia by supporting the brightest minds in brain cancer at all career stages and supporting early career and mid-career researchers who have new ideas. Our early career fellowships aim to attract and support bright young researchers to pursue a career in brain cancer by offering grants and aid of up to $345,000 for 3 years, providing stability for young researchers. This is important as most other early career and mid-career fellowships are only 1 year. Providing this stability for researchers is essential for developing new and innovative treatments for brain cancer and delivering outcomes for patients. Professor John DeGroot, one of our Scientific Advisory Committee members and a former recipient of an early career fellowship, speaks about his experience and why such fellowships are critical for progressing cancer research.
Wonderful effort by CBCF. I think the early career fellowship awards are absolutely critical for young scientists. I was a recipient of one, and it was career changing. It was so important for launching my career so many years ago. So I think the aspect of the duration is also really critical because I know most of them are, as you said, 1 year. But it's very difficult to actually accomplish something in 1 year. So you want to extend it out. And I would say 3 years is perfect because it takes a year to get going and to really get the momentum, and then 2 years to really complete and actually make it to the next stage. So I think that's really critical. I think also most awards are for early stage, right? So just when you're starting out, which is, as I said, critical. But there is also this huge need for the mid-career. And I think a lot of people don't recognize how important having a little bit of additional funding, more focus on that group can really help to continue to escalate this.
In 2022, we launched our inaugural Mid-Career Fellowship to support the growth of innovative, experienced researchers to continue their pioneering work in brain cancer. The fellowship aims to support future leaders who are particularly at risk of leaving research. We know that only 3.5% of mid-career researchers will continue their career in research. Due to the lack of funding and support available, many leave the field to pursue careers in industry, government, or areas outside of science. This lack of stability within the field of brain cancer makes it difficult to progress research into improved outcomes for patients. Our mid-career fellowships offer grants and aid of $420,000 for 3 years, providing much-needed stability for researchers to continue and progress their research in brain cancer. Dr. Alan Oliveira and Professor Patrick Wen share their thoughts on our fellowships and why it's so important that researchers are enabled to be given more time to take up their discoveries in the laboratories.
It's hard to make a lot of progress in a year. It's just a time-consuming. You also have to think about the wins, but you also have to think about there's a lot of hypotheses that don't go the way you want them to go. And you have to go back to the drawing board, and to really make any progress or gain any momentum, you really need to be out beyond that. Because I think 1 year, they'd just be starting to get going, and all of a sudden it drops off. And so 3 years feels appropriate. You should be able to make some real headway on that hypothesis in that time.
I think encouraging promising people into this field is huge. It's still a very small area, and we need to develop talent into the field.
At Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, our mission is to increase brain cancer survival and improve quality of life of those impacted. We believe funding researchers through impactful multi-year fellowships is the first step to supporting discoveries that in the future may lead to new treatments for brain cancer. Funding the entire research pathway, including supporting researchers at risk of leaving research due to lack of support and funding. I spoke with Dr. Alan Oliveira and Professor John DeGroot on the importance of supporting early and mid-career fellows, as well as early-stage biotechs to get past the funding gap known as the Valley of Death.
Really this almost ecosystem, if you will, because really it all starts with the fundamental science and basic science that it moves into translational sciences. You try to apply the knowledge of what's been done before, and then you actually have to translate that into therapy or procedure or diagnostics, and then ultimately you have to take it into the human trials, and first you have to make sure it's safe and such, and then you eventually get it into those trials that will really prove that they work. And so you can't go and develop a drug without that early stage work, and of course the early stage is about people and their science and making sure they're funded. And again, I think brain cancer has been a little bit neglected, and so it's really important to be able to invest in those young individuals as they move forward, and that will fill the ecosystem all the way to ultimately getting new drugs for brain cancer patients.
So I think the Clinical Accelerator program is again, an incredibly innovative program that's being offered by very few foundations. And I can't applaud you enough for generating funding for that effort. There is, I think, in academics, a lot of emphasis on very early stage development, with the idea that maybe what's being worked on will be taken up by somebody else in the future. It's not the idea that what they are working on is actually going to end up in a patient in the clinic. And so there's a bit of a disconnect, and there's no straight line from one to the other. So I think this really fills a huge gap for investigators at all stages.